The rain pounded against the windows of our penthouse apartment in Portland, Oregon, like a relentless drumbeat echoing through the night. It was late December, just a few days before Christmas, and the city lights below blurred into a hazy glow under the downpour. I, Julian, at 34 years old, lay beside Emily, my wife of 5 years, in our king-sized bed draped in crisp white sheets. The golden hue from the bedside lamp cast soft shadows across the room, making everything feel intimate and safe, or so I thought. We had just finished making love one of those rare evenings where work hadn't pulled us apart. Emily's marketing job kept her busy with late meetings and client dinners, while my role as a senior financial auditor meant long hours poring over spreadsheets and uncovering discrepancies in corporate ledgers. But tonight, we had carved out time for each other. I pulled the comforter up over her shoulders, my fingers lingering on her bare skin, tracing the curve of her arm. She sighed contentedly, her eyes half closed, her chestnut hair splayed across the pillow. As I leaned in to kiss her forehead, she murmured something soft, almost inaudible. Cole. The name slipped from her lips like a whisper carried on the wind, faint but unmistakable. My hand froze midair, inches from her shoulder. The room, which had felt warm moments ago, suddenly turned icy. My heart skipped a beat, then hammered in my chest. Cole. Who the hell was Cole? I stared at her, waiting for her to realize what she'd said, but her eyes remained shut, her breathing steady as if nothing had happened. 1 second passed, then 2, then 3. The silence stretched, broken only by the rain tapping insistently on the glass. Finally, I found my voice, though it came out quieter than I intended. What did you just say? Emily's eyes fluttered open, lazy and unfocused. She blinked at me, a small smile playing on her lips. What? You said Cole. Who is Cole? She chuckled lightly, rolling onto her side and pulling the blanket higher. Oh, come on, Julian. Don't make a big deal out of it. People slip up sometimes. I sat up slowly, the sheets pooling around my waist. My mind raced, piecing together fragments, old conversations, unexplained absences, the way she'd been distant lately. Slip up Emily. That's not just any name. Who is he? She sighed, propping herself up on one elbow, her expression a mix of amusement and mild annoyance. He's an old friend from college. An ex-okay, but that was ages ago. Seriously, don't be so childish about it. Childish. The word stung, but I didn't react. Instead, I turned away, facing the darkened window where rain streaked down like tears on glass. The streetlights below cast an orange glow into the room, illuminating the edges of our shared life. The framed photo of us on our honeymoon in Hawaii, the stack of books on my nightstand, her jewelry box on the dresser. Everything looked the same, but it felt irrevocably altered. Emily reached out her hand, brushing my back. Julian, it's nothing. Come back to bed. I didn't move. Nothing you called out another man's name while I'm right here. She laughed again, a short, dismissive sound that echoed in my ears. God, you're overreacting. It was just a reflex. Happens to everyone. Now can we please go to sleep? I have an early meeting tomorrow. She turned off the lamp, plunging the room into darkness. I heard her settle back into the pillows, her breathing evening out as if the moment had passed without a ripple. But for me it hadn't. I lay there wide awake, staring at the ceiling, the rain outside mirroring the storm building inside me. It wasn't just the name that cut deep, it was her casual dismissal, the way she brushed it off like a minor inconvenience. As if our marriage, our intimacy, meant so little that a slip like that didn't warrant even a hint of remorse. That night something shifted irreversibly. Our marriage didn't shatter because of a hidden affair or a long-buried secret, at least not yet. It cracked because of her indifference, the way she refused to acknowledge the wound she'd inflicted. In the quiet hours before dawn, as the rain finally eased, I made a silent vow. I wouldn't lash out. I wouldn't confront her in anger. but I would start paying attention, piecing together the truth with the precision I brought to my audits. And if what I found confirmed my fears, I would handle it methodically without the drama she accused me of creating. Little did she know that one whispered name had set everything in motion. The morning after, I woke up to the sound of Emily's alarm blaring from her side of the bed. The rain had stopped sometime during the night, leaving behind a gray overcast sky that mirrored the fog in my mind. She stretched lazily her back to me and reached for her phone without a word. No good morning kiss, no acknowledgement of what had happened. She scrolled through her notifications, humming softly to herself, as if the name Cole had never escaped her lips. I lay there for a moment, watching her. Emily was always put together in the mornings, her routine a well-oiled machine. She slipped out of bed, padded to the bathroom in her silk robe, and emerged 15 minutes later with her hair blow-dried and makeup flawlessly applied. "Coffee's brewing," she called out casually as she headed to the kitchen. I heard the clink of her favorite mug against the counter, the one I'd bought her on our anniversary trip to Seattle last year. I got up slowly, pulling on a pair of sweatpants, and joined her. The apartment smelled of fresh grounds from the French press, my daily ritual, one she rarely participated in anymore. She was already dressed in a fitted pencil skirt and blouse, her laptop open on the island counter, typing away at an email. "Busy day ahead," she said without looking up. "Client pitch at 10. You what?" "Same as always," I replied, pouring myself a cup. My voice was steady neutral. Inside, though, a switch had flipped. I wasn't angry, not yet. Anger was messy, impulsive. As a senior financial auditor, I'd spent years dissecting corporate scandals, uncovering hidden transactions and fabricated reports with cold precision. Numbers didn't lie if you knew where to look. And now I realized neither did people. Emily's casual dismissal last night wasn't just a slip. It was a crack in the facade. I decided then and there to treat our marriage like one of my audits, methodical, thorough, and unforgiving. I didn't confront her. That would have been too direct, too emotional. Instead, I started small. While she was in the shower that evening, I borrowed her phone under the pretense of checking the weather app. Her passcode was still our wedding date, predictable. I didn't snoop through her messages right away. That could wait. First, I enabled iCloud syncing on my own device, linking our calendars and locations subtly. By the next day, I could see her schedule lunch meetings that ran long team happy hours on Friday's weekend errands that took her across town to unfamiliar neighborhoods. At work in my downtown office overlooking the Willamette River, I began compiling a mental dossier. My job at Deloitte involved auditing multimillion-dollar accounts for tech firms and real estate conglomerates. I was good at it, great even, because I excelled at spotting patterns others missed, discrepancies in expense reports, unauthorized transfers, inflated valuations. Now I applied the same lens to Emily. During lunch breaks, I logged into our joint bank account from my secure VPN. There they were small anomalies I'd overlooked before. A $150 charge at a boutique hotel in the Pearl District 3 weeks ago when she said she'd been at a yoga class. Gift card purchases from Apple redeemed at places I didn't recognize. Nothing damning yet, but enough to raise flags. I didn't stop at finances. That afternoon I reviewed our shared cloud storage. Old photos from college popped up Emily with friends at parties, one arm around a guy with tousled hair and a confident grin. I zoomed in on the captions, "Throwback to senior year with Cole." My stomach twisted, but I kept my composure. A quick LinkedIn search, later discreet from an incognito browser, revealed Cole Harlan, a marketing executive at a rival firm. His profile picture matched the old photos, same smile, same easy charm. They were connected, of course. Recent likes on each other's posts, comments like, "Miss those days," from her. Back home that evening, Emily was in high spirits. She'd landed a big account at work and suggested we celebrate with takeout from our favorite Thai place. We sat on the couch eating pad see ew and watching a Netflix documentary, her head resting on my shoulder. It felt almost normal. Almost. As she laughed at something on screen, I wrapped my arm around her, pulling her close. but my mind was elsewhere, calculating. That night in bed, I tested the waters. As we lay tangled in the sheets, I whispered into her ear during a quiet moment, "Natalie." She stiffened immediately, pulling back. "What did you just call me?" I kept my expression neutral, mirroring her nonchalance from before. "Oh, nothing. Just a slip. Don't make a big deal out of it." Her eyes narrowed in the dim light. "Who's Natalie?" I shrugged, rolling onto my back. "An old friend from college. Ex-girlfriend, actually. But that's ancient history. Seriously, let's not overthink it." She didn't laugh this time. Instead, she turned away, her back rigid. I could hear her breathing, uneven and alert. She didn't sleep well that night, I knew, because I didn't either. But unlike her, I wasn't tossing in confusion. I was planning. Over the next weeks, I escalated my preparations. I opened a separate bank account in my name, only transferring my bonuses and savings incrementally small amounts that wouldn't trigger alerts. Our mortgage was joint, but I quietly refinanced my portion through a contact at the bank, ensuring she'd be left with the liability if things went south. My startup, a fintech side project I'd kept low-key developing algorithms for fraud detection, had just secured seed funding. I made sure all equity was tied to my personal holdings, untouchable in a divorce. Emily noticed nothing. She was too absorbed in her own world, late nights at the office, weekend brunches with friends. Her phone buzzing more frequently. One evening, as I cooked dinner, stirring a pot of risotto while she scrolled Instagram, I caught her smiling at a message. "Good news?" I asked casually. "Just work stuff," she replied, tucking her phone away a bit too quickly. I nodded, serving the plates. That night after she fell asleep, I accessed her iCloud backups from my laptop. The messages were there, undeleted flirty exchanges with cold plans for coffee that turned into dinner's emojis that spoke volumes. "Can't wait to see you," one read. "Julian's out of town next week. Perfect timing." It hurt, but pain fueled my resolve. I didn't forgive because I was weak. I stayed silent because I was building an exit strategy. By the end of the month, I had everything: financial independence, evidence of her affair, and a lawyer on retainer. Our marriage wasn't ending in flames. It would dissolve quietly on my terms. Emily thought she had me wrapped around her finger. She had no idea I was already unwinding the knot. One final test came a week later. In the darkness of our bedroom as we held each other, I felt her relax against me. But my mind was sharp-focused. The pieces were in place. Now it was just a matter of waiting for her to make the next move or forcing her hand if she didn't. One evening, about a month after I'd started my quiet preparations, I stepped out of the shower steam, still clinging to the mirror in our bathroom. The apartment was quiet, the kind of hush that follows a long day. Emily had texted earlier, saying she'd be home late from a team dinner. I wrapped a towel around my waist and walked into the living room, expecting to find it empty. Instead, there she was sitting on the couch, her posture straight and composed like she was in a boardroom meeting. On the coffee table in front of her lay a manila envelope thick with papers. Even without opening it, I knew exactly what it was. She looked up as I approached, her expression calm, almost rehearsed. "Julian, we need to talk." I paused in the doorway, water dripping from my hair onto the hardwood floor. "About what?" She gestured to the envelope. "This. I've signed it. I think it's best for both of us." I didn't move right away. Instead, I studied her, the way her fingers tapped lightly on the armrest, the subtle gloss on her lips from fresh lipstick, the absence of any regret in her eyes. Finally, I crossed the room and sat in the armchair across from her, still in my towel droplets, cooling on my skin. "Signed what exactly?" "The divorce papers," she said matter-of-factly, as if discussing a grocery list. "I've been thinking about it for a while. We're not connecting anymore. It's like we're just going through the motions. I need more than that. I need to feel alive, to be myself again." I leaned forward, picking up the envelope. The top sheet was visible through the flat petition for dissolution of marriage. Her signature was there, bold and lupin, dated that day. We or just you? She hesitated for the briefest moment, then met my gaze. Both of us, Julian. Come on, you can't tell me you're happy. We barely talk beyond logistics, and there's someone else. Someone who makes me feel seen, excited about the future. There it was, the confirmation I'd pieced together from her messages and late nights. Cole. The name hung unspoken between us, but I didn't need to say it. I set the papers down and looked at her steadily. So, that's it. You're done. She nodded, crossing her legs. Yes, I've already spoken to a lawyer. It's straightforward, no kids, no major assets to fight over. We can keep it amicable. Amicable. The word tasted bitter, but I swallowed it. I'd anticipated this, prepared for it. My separate accounts were secure, the mortgage refinanced, my startup insulated. She had no idea how little she'd walk away with beyond the bare minimum required by Oregon law. I picked up a pen from the side table, the same one I'd used to sign our lease years ago, and flipped to the respondent section. You're not going to argue, she asked, her voice tinged with surprise. No questions. No. Anything. I glanced up, pen hovering over the page. What is there to say? Emily. You called out another man's name in our bed and told me not to make a big deal about it. Today I'm not making a big deal. I'm agreeing. Her eyes widened slightly, but she recovered quickly, forcing a smile. Well, good. I'm glad you're being mature about this. Mature. Another dismissal, as if my restraint was a sign of weakness rather than control. I signed the papers with a steady hand, the ink flowing smoothly across the line. When I handed them back, she took them without a word, sliding them into the envelope. We sat there in silence for a moment, the clock on the wall ticking louder than usual. The next day, we filed jointly at the Multnomah County Courthouse. The process was efficient. Oregon's no-fault divorce laws made it simple. No dramatic courtroom scenes, just paperwork and a clerk's stamp. Emily seemed relieved, chatting lightly about splitting utilities and who would keep the coffee maker. I nodded along, my responses clipped but civil. Inside, I felt a strange detachment, like I was auditing someone else's life. Over the following weeks, as we waited for the 45-day processing period, the unraveling began in earnest. Emily packed her things methodically, clothes first, then books, then the decorative items she'd chosen for our home. She rented a small place in the trendy West Side neighborhood closer to her office, and I suspected to Cole. I helped her load boxes into her car one rainy afternoon, the droplets mirroring the ones from that fateful night. Thanks, she said as she drove off for the last load. This doesn't have to be weird. We can still be friends. Friends, I echoed, watching her taillights disappear down the street. The word felt hollow. Once she was gone, I stood in the empty apartment, the echoes of her absence amplifying every creak of the floorboards. I methodically cleared out the remnants, her forgotten earrings in the nightstand drawer, a half-used bottle of perfume in the bathroom, the wedding photo on the mantel that I tucked into a box for storage. I didn't burn it or tear it up. That wasn't my style. Instead, I repainted the walls a neutral gray, replaced the curtains with blackout shades, and rearranged the furniture to suit one person. The space felt larger, less cluttered. Emotionally, I wasn't shattered. The pain from that initial whisper had dulled into resolve. I'd seen the messages, the plans she'd made with Cole, weekend getaways disguised as work trips inside jokes that excluded me. She thought she'd found something better, a life without the boredom of our routine. But I knew routines were the foundation of stability, something Cole, with his flashy job and unstable habits, likely couldn't provide. As the divorce finalized, I stood on the balcony one evening overlooking the city lights twinkling below. Portland stretched out like a canvas of possibilities. Bridges arching over the river, the faint outline of Mount Hood in the distance. Emily was out there now, chasing her better love. I didn't wish her ill. I just knew she'd discover soon enough what she'd traded away. For me, the chapter was closed. I wasn't waiting for her regrets. I was ready to write my own story. 2 months after the divorce papers were finalized, I found myself settling into a new rhythm. The apartment, once echoing with Emily's presence, now felt like my own sanctuary. I'd taken up running along the Willamette riverfront in the mornings, the crisp Portland air clearing my head as I pounded the pavement. Work was thriving. My startup's fraud detection software had landed its first major client, a bank in Seattle, bringing in revenue I'd kept entirely separate from our old joint accounts. I wasn't lonely. I was liberated. Emily, on the other hand, had plunged headfirst into her new life with Cole. From what I pieced together through mutual friends' casual updates and the occasional glimpse on social media before I blocked her, she thought she'd hit the jackpot. Their West Side loft was all exposed brick and modern fixtures, the kind of place that screamed upgrade. Photos surfaced online them at upscale bistros in the Pearl District, her arm linked through his as they sipped cocktails under string lights. Cole, with his marketing exec title and easy charisma, showered her with the excitement she'd craved, spontaneous weekend drives to the Oregon coast. Late-night jazz bars whispered promises of a future without the drudgery of our routine. At first, it seemed perfect. Emily posted captions like, "Living my best life," with heart emojis, her smiles wide and genuine in the pictures. But cracks appeared sooner than she expected. Cole's job, glamorous on paper, was unstable. Client accounts came and went, leaving gaps in his income that he brushed off with laughs. "It's the industry," Han, he'd say, ordering another round on her credit card. Their loft, it turned out, was on a short-term lease because he couldn't commit to anything longer. Mornings weren't about shared coffee and plans. They were rushed with him scrolling through his phone while she tidied up his scattered clothes and takeout containers. Emily started noticing the differences, the ones that gnawed at her quietly. I'd always been the one to rise early, brewing her favorite dark roast and setting out the mugs just so. With Cole, breakfast was whatever was grabbed on the go, if at all. I'd planned our finances, meticulously setting aside funds for emergencies or even quiet gestures like contributing to her mother's retirement without fanfare. Cole lived paycheck to paycheck, his spontaneity masking a lack of foresight. When Emily suggested they invest together, perhaps in a small venture to build something lasting, he laughed it off. "Invest, babe, where's the money coming from? Let's just enjoy now." That's when the reality hit her she'd left with next to nothing. Our divorce had been clean, but I'd ensured the assets were divided minimally per Oregon's equitable distribution laws. The apartment stayed in my name. The savings I'd transferred out beforehand were untouchable, and my startup equity was locked away. She had her salary, a few personal items, and the illusion of freedom. No alimony, no windfall. Cole's charm didn't extend to financial security. He expected her to foot the bills for their adventures, assuming she'd brought more from the marriage than she had. The breaking point came one rainy evening, much like the night everything started. Emily returned to the loft after a long day, expecting Cole to have dinner ready as he'd promised. Instead, she found him lounging on the couch, his phone in hand, chuckling at a message. She glanced over his shoulder, a flirty exchange with someone named Alex, and complete with winking emojis and plans for drinks. "What's this?" she demanded, her voice sharper than intended. Cole looked up unbothered. "Oh, that just a friend. Come on, Em, we're not exclusive or anything. No rings, no commitments, right? That's what you wanted, freedom." Her stomach dropped. Freedom. This wasn't what she'd envisioned. In that moment, the comparisons flooded in. I'd never strayed, never made her question her place. I'd been steady, reliable, the one who remembered anniversaries with quiet gestures, not grand, but meaningful. Cole's excitement was superficial, a veneer over selfishness. She confronted him, but he shrugged it off. "If you're not cool with it, maybe this isn't working." That night she packed a single suitcase, the same one she'd taken when leaving our apartment. No dramatic fight, just a quiet exit into the Portland drizzle. She drove aimlessly at first, the city lights streaking across her windshield like blurred memories. Eventually, she pulled into a motel parking lot on the outskirts, the neon sign flickering vacancy. Sitting in her car, rain pattering on the roof, she stared at her reflection in the rearview mirror. The woman looking back seemed older, wearier. She traded substance for sparkle, only to find the sparkle was fool's gold. As for me, I didn't know the details then, not until later through the grapevine. But I sensed it coming. Emily had chosen what she thought was better, but shadows don't sustain. They fade in the light of reality. And as she sat there alone with her regrets, I was already moving forward, the weight of our shared past lifting with each passing day. 2 months after Emily's abrupt departure from Cole's loft, I was in the kitchen one evening, helping Sarah slide a homemade pizza into the oven. Sarah was a graphic designer I'd met at a networking event, warm, grounded, with a laugh that filled the room without demanding attention. We'd been seeing each other casually for a few weeks. Nothing rushed, just easy conversations over coffee that turned into dinners. The apartment felt alive again, new curtains letting in the evening light, the scent of fresh basil wafting through the air, and the faint sound of a child's laughter from the TV show we'd paused. The doorbell rang, unexpected and sharp. I wiped my hands on a towel and went to answer it. There stood Emily under the porch light, looking smaller than I remembered. Her hair was pulled back messily, her coat rumpled a suitcase at her feet, like the one she'd taken before. Her eyes met mine, hesitant but searching. "Julian," she said softly, "can we talk? Just for a minute?" I glanced back at Sarah, who nodded understandingly, then stepped outside, closing the door behind me. The cool Portland air nipped at us as we stood on the stoop. "What is it, Emily?" She shifted her weight, glancing at the ground. "I'm not here to ask for anything back. I need to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I thought I'd find something better, but I lost the one person who truly cared about me the right way." I leaned against the railing, arms crossed. "I don't blame you for falling for someone else. I just regret that you didn't see the value in what you had until it was gone." She nodded, tears welling up. "The woman inside. Sarah," I said simply. "She's kind. She appreciates things without needing to chase shadows." Emily wiped her eyes, turning to go. In her hand, I caught a glimpse of our old wedding photo peeking from her purse. She walked away into the night, her steps echoing faintly. Back inside, Sarah handed me a slice of pizza. "Everything okay?" I smiled, pulling her close. "Yeah, it is now." As we sat down to eat, I felt the final weight lift, ready for whatever came next.